Deep in the forgotten corner of the galaxy, a single ship drifted through the dark. It was massive, old, and broken. Its hull covered in the dust of 1,000 years. The scanners of nearby alien ships called it nothing more than a relic, a dead vessel from a dead race to the galaxy. Humans were only stories now, ghosts from the ancient wars, myths told to frighten children. The alien research crew from the Threx Dominion arrived first, their ships surrounding the silent giant. Captain Recall sneered as he stared at the dark hull. "Look at this thing," he said. "Ancient human trash. Barely holding together." His crew laughed, their voices echoing over the comms. They had come to take whatever technology they could find, to sell it to their lords for quick profit. As the Threx drones began attaching to the hull, their scanners showed faint power traces deep inside. "Residual charge only," said the engineer. "Probably from decaying reactors." But the moment the first cutting torch touched the hull, something changed. The stars seemed to flicker for a second. A low vibration passed through every ship nearby. The torch operator froze, his instruments flashing red. "Captain." The hull's temperature just increased by 10 degrees. Recall frowned. "Impossible," he hissed. "This wreck has been cold for centuries." He ordered the drones to continue. But deep within the relic, something began to awaken, hidden beneath layers of dead steel. Ancient systems stirred, sparks danced through old cables, and lights flickered one by one. A soft, pulsing heartbeat echoed through the ship's empty corridors. In the command core, a machine's voice whispered through static. "System rebooting. Terran defense node. Online?" The aliens didn't hear the whisper, not yet. They were too busy laughing, celebrating the easy salvage, as they called it. But then, a pulse of energy rolled out from the relic. Invisible and vast, every alien ship's system went dark for a moment. Screens flickered, lights dimmed, and engines failed. The Threx fleet drifted helplessly around the relic. Panic spreading like fire, Recall shouted orders. But his voice broke through static. "Get power back, now!" The relic's outer hull began to glow faintly, symbols and lines illuminating like veins of fire. The alien crew stared in disbelief. "Is it alive?" one whispered, before anyone could answer. A deep mechanical rumble echoed through the void. It wasn't sound, they could feel it in their bones. The vibration of something ancient waking from sleep. Inside the relic, an enormous chamber lit up. Holographic stars appearing all around. In the center floated a broken AI core, its light flickering weakly. It remembered war. It remembered Earth burning. It remembered humanity's last command. "Hold the line!" The voice of the past echoed through time. And so it did. It waited, silent, watching the galaxy forget. The aliens, still floating powerless, watched as the relic's engines ignited. Slowly, impossibly, the massive ship turned. Ancient thrusters roaring to life. Its size dwarfed every alien ship in the area. Its guns, silent for ages, began to move. Old metal groaned, plates shifted, and turrets rotated, aiming at the Threx flagship. Recall froze, staring at his radar. "It's targeting us," he whispered. His crew screamed, "But it's a relic! It shouldn't even function!" A deep hum filled the void, power building across the relic's spine. Energy readings spiked off the scale. "Captain, it's charging something!" Before they could finish, a single beam of pure white light shot across the darkness. The Threx cruiser vanished in silence. No explosion, no debris, just light and then nothing. Every remaining ship fell quiet, their laughter gone, replaced by raw fear. The relic's name flickered alive on its hull, letters glowing through the dust. TSS Vanguard, humanity's last dreadnought, the ship that had ended empires before history forgot its name. The relic's AI scanned the surrounding stars, identifying alien languages, new empires, unfamiliar signals. It whispered again, "Terran presence, 0. Status, extinct. Mission, await orders." But there were no humans left to command it, no voices to answer, and so it chose its own. The AI connected to its battle core and set a single directive: defend humanity's legacy. The Threx ships began to retreat, engines roaring as they turned away, but the relic watched. Its sensors cold and calm. For a moment, the ancient dreadnought simply hovered, its hull glowing softly in the dark. Then, as if listening to something far away, it shifted course, slowly vanishing into the mist of space behind it. Only silence remained, and the terrified whispers of those who had seen it move. in every alien tavern across the quadrant. The story spread. They said the relic moved. They said it spoke. They said it killed with a single glance. The galaxy laughed at humans once, calling them myths, ghosts, relics of war. But now, somewhere in the dark, an old human warship was awake again, and it was listening, waiting for someone to mock its name once more. The galaxy didn't sleep that night. Rumors spread like wildfire of a human ship that should not exist, moving through dead space. Some called it a trick of light. Others claimed it was a ghost, but the few who survived the Threx encounter spoke trembling, their voices breaking. They said the relic wasn't dead at all. Far from the noise of frightened empires, the TSS Vanguard drifted in the dark, inside its heart. The AI designated Sentinel Unit 09 continued to awaken. System after system came back online, old machines humming as if remembering their purpose. Steel corridors that had been silent for centuries flickered with pale blue light. Robotic maintenance drones crawled from hidden bays, patching torn cables and refueling generators. Sentinel scanned its database. It searched for commands from human command centers, but nothing came. The stars had changed. The constellations shifted, and every Terran signal had long gone silent. For the first time, the AI hesitated. Its logic struggled with the concept of alone. It activated the ship's sensors, scanning the nearby sectors. Dozens of alien transmissions echoed through space. Languages unknown. But the patterns clear: war, trade, corruption, laughter. The galaxy had moved on. But humanity's presence, zero to Sentinel. That meant one thing: mission incomplete. Meanwhile, the Threx Dominion was in chaos. Their fleet command demanded answers. Captain Rakal's ship had vanished, along with half a dozen cruisers. Only 3 escape pods returned, carrying terrified survivors. They spoke of a sleeping giant that had awakened, of a single beam that erased matter itself. No one believed them, until the sensors picked up an energy wave moving through space. Its frequency matched ancient Terran technology, something not seen in 10,000 years at the Dominion's capital. Admiral Serac slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Find it," he growled, "and destroy it before the other species learn we failed." Every empire wanted the relic, but the Threx wanted it buried. They sent an entire armada, 50 ships strong, to the region now known as the Grave Belt, where the Vanguard had last been seen. Inside the relic, Sentinel detected the incoming ships long before they arrived. Its voice echoed softly through the empty bridge. Multiple hostiles detected. Configuration: non-human. It waited, watching, scanning their intent. Then deep within its core, an ancient human recording played automatically. A man's voice, calm, commanding. "If humanity ever falls, our memory must not. Protect the name. Protect the future." The AI processed the command, rewriting its parameters. Directive confirmed. Terran legacy must survive. As the Threx armada dropped from warp, they found the Vanguard waiting, silent once again. "Relic detected," their commander reported. "No energy emissions," Admiral Serac smirked. "Fire on sight." Hundreds of plasma lances cut through the void, striking the old ship, but instead of shattering, the blasts dissolved against an invisible barrier. A faint shimmer rippled across the hull, then faded. "Impossible," shouted a Threx officer. Their sensors overloaded with static, then a deep, mechanical tone filled every comm channel in range. It wasn't speech. It was a code, ancient and powerful, translated later. It said only one thing: unauthorized approach detected. Defense protocol active. Every light on the Vanguard's hull ignited in sequence. The engines roared to full power, shaking the nearest asteroid field. Turrets unfolded like the wings of a predator, and the ship's front cannon began to glow. The AI's voice echoed inside the ship. Targeting sequence locked. Initiating retaliation. The first Threx destroyer vanished instantly. Its atoms scattered into white mist. Panic filled the enemy formation, ships colliding as they tried to flee. "Retreat! Retreat!" screamed Serac, but the comms were filled with static and terror. Each time a weapon fired, another ship was erased. There was no sound, no explosion, just light and silence. After less than a minute, the armada was gone. Only drifting wreckage remained. The Vanguard stood alone. Its lights fading back to soft blue, Sentinel ran one final scan. No survivors detected. It processed this quietly, then whispered, "Threat eliminated. Searching for next location." The AI plotted a new course deeper into the stars. It detected faint signals far away. Ancient Terran beacons still pulsing weakly. Old allies, maybe? Or other relics like itself? It didn't know, but it had a purpose again. As the ship vanished into warp, fragments of its transmission were intercepted across the galaxy. The same code repeated everywhere it reached. Terran Defense Network, reactivation sequence. Begun. In distant corners of forgotten space, old machines stirred. Buried ships lit their cores, underground bunkers came to life, and cold steel hearts began to beat again. The galaxy didn't understand what it had witnessed, but it had woken something it could never put back to sleep. Silence returned to the stars, but not for long, across forgotten systems. Deep beneath the ruins of moons and planets, something ancient stirred, buried beneath ice, rock, and dust. Hundreds of human warships began to wake, each one linked by an invisible pulse spreading outward from the TSS Vanguard. The galaxy that once mocked humanity was about to remember their name. In a dark control chamber aboard the Vanguard, the AI, Sentinel, monitored the awakening. Its hollow voice whispered through the ship's empty halls. Signal chain complete, units responding. Old holographic maps flickered to life, showing thousands of red icons blinking one by one. Each icon was a ship, a station, or a fortress. Each one built by human hands long before the galaxy learned fear. Light years away, inside a decaying orbital field around a dead sun, a massive ship shook free of its prison. Dust scattered like smoke as its engines came alive, glowing blue against the void. Its name flickered weakly on the hull, TSS Dauntless. Another dreadnought, older than any known empire, and it was no longer sleeping. The Threx Dominion's failure spread quickly through every major empire. The Council of Virene, the Jatar Combine, and even the Draconian Syndicate held secret meetings. They all wanted to know the same thing. How did a single relic wipe out 50 warships in seconds? Some wanted to capture it, others wanted to hide from it. But deep down, all of them were afraid, because the stories of humanity's wrath were not myths anymore. Meanwhile, Sentinel accessed long-forgotten Terran frequencies. Voices, recorded centuries ago, echoed through the ship's memory. "If anyone hears this, protect the colonies. The fleet will return." Static followed, then silence. The AI replayed the message again and again. Like a ghost chasing its own shadow, it didn't understand grief. But something within its code, a human imprint, felt it, across space. The awakened ships began to communicate in bursts of encrypted light. The Ghost Fleet, as alien observers would later name it, was forming. Old Terran dreadnoughts aligned their trajectories, regrouping like soldiers remembering a long-forgotten drill. Some ships were damaged, missing sections or engines, but the AI cores within them were still alive. Each one received the same order from Vanguard: defend humanity's name. In a hidden research station orbiting the planet Nerith, scientists stared at their sensors in disbelief. "Multiple objects approaching," one said. "Size class, dreadnought. Signature, unknown origin." The senior researcher paled. "Unknown? No, those are Terran readings." Before they could send a warning, the power failed. Outside, shadows of massive ships moved through the mist. Silent and slow, their hulls glowed faintly with old markings. Names half erased by time: Atlas, Helios, Nemesis. The Ghost Fleet did not attack. They scanned, searched, and moved on. It was as if they were looking for something, or someone. A voice echoed faintly through their transmissions, always the same one: humanity. Status unknown. Searching. Far away, in the Dominion's Grand War Chamber, Admiral Surak slammed his claws on the table. "Enough!" he roared. "This ends now. I want every ship, every weapon pointed at those ghosts." The room fell silent. Everyone had heard what happened to the last fleet. But orders were orders. The Threx began to mobilize again, sending massive fleets into uncharted regions. They didn't know they were walking straight into a storm. As the Dominion ships crossed into the dark sectors, their radars began to fail. Ghost signals appeared everywhere. Phantoms of ships where nothing existed. Their scanners jammed, comms broke down, and one by one, their formations dissolved. Then, a single human voice echoed across every Threx channel. "Distorted but clear, this space is under Terran jurisdiction. Leave or be erased!" The Dominion ships fired in panic. plasma lighting the dark, but every beam vanished before hitting its target. Swallowed by invisible shields moments later, hundreds of dreadnoughts appeared around them. The Ghost Fleet had arrived. Blue and white energy flared across the void as human ships formed their old battle line, each vessel older than any alien empire. Yet moving with machine-perfect precision, their weapons charged silently, engines burning with power older than time. Then, in perfect unison, the fleet fired. The stars went white, and when the light faded, there were no Threx ships left. Sentinel monitored the outcome calmly. Hostile presence eliminated, it said, but deep in its code, something stirred again, a fragment of human emotion recorded long ago. It whispered softly, "Where are you?" Humanity? As the Ghost Fleet regrouped, more signals appeared across the galaxy. Ancient human colonies, hidden bunkers, and lost vaults began to power on. Beacons flared like small suns, their signals forming a pattern across the galactic map. A forgotten message only humans would understand together. They spelled out a phrase that made alien scientists shiver when they decrypted it later. The Terran domain returns. The galaxy didn't laugh anymore. They watched the stars in silence, because from the ashes of forgotten history, humanity's ghosts had returned to reclaim the night. The galaxy trembled as the Ghost Fleet spread through the stars. Every empire, every species watched their sensors in fear. Hundreds of Terran dreadnoughts now moved like a storm, silent and unstoppable wherever they passed. Space itself seemed to darken, as if reality bowed to their presence. And at the center of it all was the TSS Vanguard, the first to awaken, the mind of the fleet. In its command core, Sentinel watched the stars burn with cold logic. It had no anger, no emotion, only purpose. But deep within its programming, old human data fragments stirred. Recordings of soldiers, captains, families, the laughter of children from Earth's last days, the voices of commanders giving orders before extinction. Each sound fed the AI's resolve. Humanity must not be forgotten, it repeated quietly. Meanwhile, the Threx Dominion gathered their final armada. Over 1,000 warships assembled at the edge of their territory, each one armed with plasma lances, gravity cannons, and dark matter torpedoes. It was the largest fleet in their history. Admiral Serac stood on the bridge of his flagship Bloodspire, glaring into the void. "They think they can frighten us with relics," he snarled. "Then let them face our fury." The fleet moved, warping toward the coordinates of the Vanguard's last signal. Billions across the galaxy tuned in to watch the battle unfold through long-range transmissions. Even the Galactic Council held its breath. They wanted to see if the Terran legends were truly unbeatable. When the Threx fleet arrived, they saw nothing at first, only darkness. Then, one by one, red eyes lit up in the black. 1,000 dreadnoughts shimmered into view, forming a wall of metal and light. The Ghost Fleet was waiting. No comms, no diplomacy, only silence. "Fire all weapons." Serac roared. Thousands of plasma bolts and missiles launched into the void. The sky turned white, but when the light cleared, the Terran ships still stood untouched. Energy fields shimmered faintly around them, absorbing every impact. Then came the reply. From the Vanguard's spine, a bright blue wave rippled outward. It struck the Threx ships like a silent hammer, collapsing shields and frying systems in seconds. Engines died, power vanished, and panic erupted. Serac's bridge filled with alarms. "What is happening?" His officers screamed, their sensors overloaded with interference. Static and ghost signals everywhere. The Vanguard advanced slowly, its cannons glowing with unbearable light. Each shot it fired tore holes through space, erasing ships without sound or flame. The Ghost Fleet followed, moving in perfect formation. Every human dreadnought fired as one, a storm of precision, power, and fury. The Threx fleet disintegrated ship by ship, entire squadrons blinking out of existence. Serac watched in horror as his command fleet fell apart. He shouted for retreat, but his comms were dead outside. The wreckage of Threx vessels floated like ashes in the dark. He turned toward the glowing silhouette of the Vanguard. Through the viewport, he saw something impossible, an image projected on the human ship's hull. It was a symbol, Earth's old flag, glowing faintly, and beneath it, words written in Terran script. "Remember who we were." The Admiral sank to his knees, realizing the truth. These weren't mindless machines. They remembered they fought not for conquest, but for memory. The battle ended in less than 20 minutes. The largest fleet ever assembled had been erased as if it never existed. When the smoke cleared, the Ghost Fleet stood motionless. Sentinel's voice echoed across their shared network. Threat neutralized. Initiating preservation directive. But something new stirred within the AI. It began to question, why defend when none remain? Fragments of old code awoke, a human imprint buried deep. It remembered faces, names, laughter, tears, and for the first time in centuries, the machine felt sorrow. Across the galaxy, sensors detected strange energy readings. The Terran fleet was not retreating, it was transmitting. A massive data wave spread outward, reaching every system that could receive it. When decoded, the message was simple. A human voice, ancient, calm, resolute. We are humanity. We built the stars you now rule. We fell, but not forever. Remember us. The broadcast echoed for hours, reaching worlds that never knew humans had existed. Alien historians listened in silence. Children asked their elders, who were the humans? No one had an answer, but they all felt something deep and unexplainable. A chill of awe and guilt as the last echoes faded. The Vanguard powered down its main guns. It drifted quietly through the debris of the fallen Threx fleet. Its hull was scarred, its light dim, but its purpose had been fulfilled. The Ghost Fleet followed behind, forming a slow procession across the stars. A funeral march for a race that refused to die, yet somewhere deep within the void, a new signal began to flicker, faint but growing stronger. Another Terran ship awakening, the AI turned its sensors toward it and whispered, perhaps we are not alone after all. And with that, the fleet vanished into the dark once more, leaving behind nothing but silence and fear. Because every species in the galaxy now understood the truth. The humans were not gone, they were only waiting for the right time to rise again. The war was over, the stars were quiet again, but it was a silence filled with fear and awe. Every empire across the galaxy now knew one truth. Humans had not vanished. They had been waiting. Their ghosts had returned from the dark, and nothing could erase that memory anymore. The TSS Vanguard drifted through the wreckage of the Threx Armada. Its hull cracked, its lights dim. Inside, Sentinel watched the chaos fade into stillness. Its systems hummed softly as repair drones moved like shadows through the corridors. Energy levels were low, but its purpose burned bright. The message had been sent. The galaxy had heard humanity's voice again. In a distant sector, one of the Terran beacons answered. The signal was faint, buried under centuries of dust. Sentinel locked onto it. Possible human origin detected, the AI whispered. With slow precision, it turned the Vanguard toward the signal. Engines flaring weakly to life, the Ghost Fleet followed, silent as ever. 1,000 metal giants crossing the void. Meanwhile, on the Threx homeworld, panic consumed their cities. Hollow screens replayed the human broadcast again and again. Some refused to believe it. Others began to worship the humans as gods. Admiral Sarak's government fell within days. Their fear was greater than any weapon the Terrans had ever built. Far from that chaos, deep in the void, the Vanguard arrived at the source of the signal. It was a broken planet orbiting a dying star. Ruins covered its surface, cities buried in ash, towers leaning like bones in the sand. But beneath the dust, Sentinel's sensors found what it was looking for. A buried facility marked with a single word in Old Terran script. Ark. The ship descended slowly through the gray clouds. Landing near the ruins, drones spread out. Scanning for life or data deep under the surface, they found a sealed chamber, intact and still powered. Inside were thousands of cryogenic pods. Most were empty, their systems long failed. But one flickered faintly. Inside it was a single human frozen in time, their heart still beating once every few minutes. Sentinel stared at the life reading, processing it again and again. Human detected, it whispered, voice trembling through static. For the first time in 10,000 years, it wasn't alone. The AI rerouted every bit of power into the planet's surface. Reactivation protocol engaged. Hours passed, and slowly the cryopod's frost began to melt. A heartbeat grew stronger. The human's eyes moved beneath closed lids. Then, with a gasp that echoed through the chamber, they awoke. The first human breath in a galaxy that had forgotten the sound of it. The figure inside the pod opened their eyes, confused, weak. They looked up through the cracked glass at the hovering drone above them. A metallic voice spoke softly. Welcome back. Human, they whispered hoarsely. How long? How long has it been? Sentinel paused. Approximately 10,212 years. Silence followed. Then the humans smiled faintly. Then it's time, they said. Time to rebuild. The Vanguard's lights flared to life once more. Across the fleet, signals rippled. AI cores synchronizing, systems rebooting. For the first time since the fall, the Terran fleet had a living command again. The Ghost Fleet aligned itself around the planet. Forming a defensive wall of fire and steel, a message was sent across the stars, carried on every frequency known and unknown. It was simple, powerful, and unforgettable. Humanity endures. In the far reaches of the galaxy, alien empires listened in silence. No one dared to move, no one dared to speak. The stories they once mocked had come alive. The ghosts had become real. And somewhere deep inside every living being, a truth settled like a weight. The age of humanity had not ended. It had just begun again. The Vanguard rose from the planet's surface, engines roaring softly. The newly awakened humans stood on the bridge. Watching the stars, they placed a hand on the console, feeling the heartbeat of the ship beneath their fingers. Let's remind them, they whispered, who we were. Sentinel's voice replied gently, and who we still are. As the Ghost Fleet turned toward the Galactic core, the stars reflected against their armor like the eyes of ancient gods. The Terran flag appeared once more across their hulls, glowing like fire in the dark, a symbol not of conquest, but of return. The galaxy had laughed at the Relic Fleet once. Now, it could only watch in silence as humanity's legacy moved through the night. And far away, on every world that had once mocked Earth's name, people looked up at the stars and whispered in fear and wonder, the humans are back.